We usually think of listening as something that just happens. It's passive, right? But what if we started treating it like a conscious choice, like a powerful teaching tool we can aim with real purpose? Well, that's what we're diving into today. How we can move our listening from an automatic habit to an intentional skill, and how that can completely change everything in the classroom.
Okay, I think pretty much every educator out there can relate to this feeling. A student is trying to share something important, something personal, and our brain? Well, it's busy scanning for grammatical errors and weird verb tenses. This quote just hits the nail on the head, capturing that constant tension between correcting the language and actually connecting with the person.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start by looking at that default teacher's listening habit. Then, we'll break down three totally different modes of listening. We'll see what one of them, analytical listening, looks like in action, figure out how to master the other one, supportive listening, and then wrap up by talking about the huge impact all of this has on your students.
All right, first up, the teacher's listening habit. The whole idea here is that we can take this thing we do automatically and pull it into the spotlight, making it a conscious, deliberate choice. See, listening doesn't just have to happen to you. It's a skill, something you can get better at. And it's a choice you can make in any given moment. You can actually decide, am I listening to find errors right now? Or am I listening to truly, deeply understand what this person is trying to tell me? That shift, it's a game changer.
So, to get a handle on this, let's break it down into three distinct modes of listening. Think of these as different tools in your toolkit. You just have to know which one to pull out for the right job.
First up, we have conversational listening. This is your default mode with friends, right? It's relaxed, it's back and forth, your mind might wander a bit, you're thinking about what you're going to say next. It's totally fine for hanging out, but in the classroom, it's often not what's needed. Next, we've got analytical listening. And this is our teacher mode. This is when you're listening with the teacher's agenda. Your focus is laser sharp on the language, on the accuracy, on the errors. The goal here is all about analysis and giving feedback. And finally, there's supportive listening. This is a total 180. Here, you're following the speaker's agenda. The focus shifts completely to the person and their message. You're intentionally overlooking the little errors because you're trying to hear the meaning underneath. You're just trying to stay with them and their story. This table really lays it out nicely. You've got conversational, which is all about social connection and a shared story. Then analytical, focused on the language and its errors. That's the teacher's agenda. And finally, supportive, which is all about the person and their message, the speaker's agenda. The big thing to notice is that both analytical and supportive listening take a ton of focus, but that focus is aimed at completely different things.
Okay, so let's see this analytical listening in action. We're going to use this great metaphor, putting a student's sentence on an imaginary laboratory bench to dissect it. So picture this. A student comes up to you and says, "I am going to make my homeworks this night." Now, you totally get what they mean. But in that analytical mode, your brain instantly snatches that sentence and puts it on the lab bench for a closer look. And boom, this is what's happening inside your head. Your brain just chops it up into all these separate issues. There's the extra verb be, the verb choice make isn't quite right, homeworks is an uncountable noun, and this night is a little clunky. It's this incredibly fast diagnostic process that just happens automatically. And this whole thing, it's this incredibly complex dance that teachers do in milliseconds. First, you have to decide, do I respond to the message or the language? If it's language, then step 2. You analyze the problems and decide which one is most important. And finally, step 3, you give feedback that's actually useful for this specific student in this specific moment. It's a huge, high-stakes judgment call you're making on the fly. So if analytical listening is our default, our go-to muscle, then supportive listening is a new muscle, one that we have to consciously decide to build and stretch. A really helpful way to think about this is with a listening continuum. Just imagine a scale, like a volume knob that goes from 0 to 10. 0 is you're completely distracted, maybe thinking about lunch. 5 is that sort of normal back and forth conversational listening. And 10 is when you are giving the speaker your absolute full undivided attention. And here's the secret. The first step is just awareness. You can't improve what you don't notice. Just taking a second in a conversation to ask yourself, hey, where am I on this scale right now? That is such a powerful first step toward building that supportive listening muscle. So how do you actually dial it up to 10? Well, it really boils down to these key things. You try to empathize with the person. You actively avoid passing judgment. You have to intentionally clear your mind of all the other clutter. And you put every ounce of your attention on simply understanding them. You're listening with your whole body. Now, I know this might sound a little weird, but here's a really practical exercise you can actually try. Grab a colleague or a friend and ask them to just talk about anything for 3 or 4 minutes. While they're talking, you practice moving up and down that continuum, from maybe a distracted 2 all the way up to a focused 10. Then, and this is the important part, you talk about it. Ask them if they felt a difference. The answer is almost always a resounding yes.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, the impact of your listening. Because ultimately, this isn't just about a cool technique. It's about the message we're sending to our students every single day.
Here it is. This is the big takeaway. The way you choose to listen sends an incredibly powerful message. It tells your students what you value most in that specific moment, the technical correctness of their language, or them as a person, and the message that they are trying so hard to share with you. So I want to leave you with this final question to reflect on. Think about your own classroom. Do you feel that students notice a difference when you make that shift from analytical to supportive listening? And if so, what is that difference? What changes? Is it in their body language, their confidence, their willingness to open up? The answer to that question reveals the true, incredible power of listening.